Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you all. Hi, Penny, Marianne, and Ann Philbeck. Thank you all so much for coming. It's awesome. You guys were early. Hope everybody's been having a good week and a good day. I've got my notes ready. I hope you all are ready as well. All right, so quick introduction of myself. Welcome to Mountain Grandma's channel. I'm Mountain Grandma. My name's Tammy. And we are going to be starting the lesson 4 of the Herbal Study Hall. These are weekly lives that we do just to help everybody stay engaged and on top of their herbal learning. And the goal is for all of us to learn together. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for coming. And people come to herbs in a lot of different ways to work on their own personal healing of themselves or their family, through education, through all kinds of things, culture, and so forth. And we welcome everyone, beginners to experienced. Always love to hear everybody's feedback. Also, another reminder, every week, our goal is to cover one herbal concept, one herb of the week, an herbal recipe of the week also, and occasionally we'll do a giveaway. How you can participate by subscribing to the channel, ringing the bell, giving me a thumbs up there, and sharing out this live with anyone you know who is a budding herbalist and wants to learn more, or just, stay on task with what they're already doing. And also, we have memberships to the channel as well. And thank you to all of my current members. I need you guys to send me an email because I would like to share something with all of you. So shoot me your email so that I can give you all a little gift. And if you'd like to become a member, there's different membership levels also. All right. So before we get started, hey Heather, I can't remember if I said hi to you. So if I didn't, hello. Quick disclaimer before we get started. This live is for educational purposes only. I'm not a medical professional, and nothing shared here is meant to diagnose, treat, or replace medical advice from a qualified healthcare provider. Herbalism can be supportive, and everyone's body and health history are a little different. So please talk with your doctor or another licensed healthcare professional before trying new herbs, especially if you're pregnant, because most herbs are contraindicated for pregnancy and nursing. Also, if you're taking medications or managing a medical condition, just to make sure that you speak with a professional. This space is all about learning, exploring traditions, and understanding plants, not giving personal medical advice. All right, with that being said, it's tea time, and we are going to kick off lesson 4 of the Herbal Study Hall. And my first question, who's drinking tea with me? And what do you got in your cup? Now, real quick, I wanted to just mention, so last week we were talking about astragalus, and I shared a recipe for astragalus elderberry syrup, which is amazing. We are just loving that. The flavor is incredible. Anyways, previously we also shared, last week you guys got 2 recipes. You got the Trikatu, Trikatu is how it's spelled, which is the equal parts black pepper, long pepper, and ginger powder in honey, and it makes a paste, and then it treats coughs and sinus issues. We also shared the herbal paste with ashwagandha, pepper, and honey. And we did the ginger and lemon fermented honey. Lots of honey going on. All kinds of sweet stuff. Tonight's recipe is not going to be so sweet per se, but I hope y'all like it. Ann Philbeck's drinking turmeric and horsetail. Great combo. Who was it at the last class that suggested that we chat about marshmallow root? Or maybe you just said marshmallow. Whose idea was that? Whosever idea it was a great idea because that's the one that we're doing. And it really fit in perfectly. Was it you, Anne? I think you picked one before. You're picking good ones that are lining up really well with the lesson. So today's lesson is a continuance on herbal energetics. And we're going to be talking this time. Last time we talked about cold versus hot, and we talked about that both as it relates to herbs and also as it relates to medical conditions, or I should say, your overall constitution. And this time we're going to talk about moist versus dry. So just a reminder that herbal energetics don't just describe like the temperature or moisture of an herb, but they describe the overall feel of an herb and how it influences the body. And it involves looking at herbs and their characteristics and determining like hot versus cold, moist versus dry, relaxing versus toning or building, dispersing versus grounding, and even like the effects, whether they're subtle or whether they're strong. So that's kind of just a really brief recap. But today we're going to be chatting about moistening versus drying and how that carries over into your constitutions or your health. And I'm going to be using a TCM word when I talk about that. So damp is a TCM term that they use for describing like a body that's just damp. We'll talk about what all the symptoms are of that versus a dry constitution. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit also. And we're going to revisit the case studies that we shared last week. So kicking us off, and I just realized I need to get this going on my phone in case I share and freeze up, I can still see you guys. So kicking us off with moistening herbs. Does anybody want to propose any moistening herbs? What comes to mind when you think of that? Drop it in the chat for me. Moistening herbs. Any ideas on moistening herbs? Think about herbs that are, they have a lot of moisture in them. I'll kick you off with one. Marshmallow root. We're going to be talking about that one. That one is considered a moistening herb. Anyone else want to take a guess? Yes, aloe, tamara, very good. Good to see you, Tamara. Cyprium, psyllium, that's right. Yep, those are all good ones. How about chia seed? Let me go ahead and get my banner going, and I'll run these across the bottom of the screen. And you might see some that you didn't think of. Castor. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. You got me pausing on that one. All right. So your moistening herbs are going to be the herbs that basically are soothing to the body. They're usually going to be mucilaginous, and they're going to be, they're not necessarily always cooling, but most of the time they are cooling. And you would use them in situations where you've got a really dry system. Yes, marshmallow is very moistening. And I'm so excited. It was so much fun for me to pull together the monograph for that plant. I just had so much fun. And there's so many things that I plan on making with it. Like I'm nerding out on marshmallow. I'm going to make all kinds of things with that because I can. Because you can. It's going to be so fun. And so these moistening herbs are really great to help treat things like inflammation. They can be used typically overall, topically. If you're treating a cough that is a very dry cough, and we're going to talk about some case studies in just a minute. But that's when the moistening herbs come into play. And they'll do things that maybe other herbs could do too. But when you're making your herb selection for your formula or for, whatever you're using, just keep in mind the intent of the patient. Like, what's this patient? They have a cough. What kind of cough? That kind of thing. Hey, Homesteader Rachel, thanks for coming. Welcome in. So we're going to do a case study with these moistening herbs in just a minute, but I want to share the drying herbs before I do that. And does anybody want to share with me some herbs that come to mind when you think about a drying herb? Anybody have any thoughts on that? I'm going to mention two that were on the list that are herbs that I have not used, and that's agrimony and bayberry. I haven't used those. Hey, Steph, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Alum? Okay. Tamara, I love your herb suggestions. You trick me with some of them sometimes. Writing this down. Alum. And for moistening, you had said castor, and that one also had me go, Anyone else want to guess? I was surprised to see calendula on the list of drying herbs. But it's lymph moving. We know it moves the lymph, right? Your calendula. And so I guess the drying, maybe that kind of works with that in a way. All right, let me go pull up the banner. There's cinnamon. That was another one. But what was interesting, I saw cinnamon in one book that had it listed as the cinnamon powder specifically as a demulcent or, a moistening herb. Those are your demulcents. Jojo berries dry? You mean goji berries? I don't think they're on my list. It feels like they'd be dry though, doesn't it? I feel like those would be dry. And again, it kind of going back to that, some of these we feel inherently about, right? Like we feel like they'd be dry. I mean, we know aloe would be moistening. Always put a part of alum on canker sores. Oh, interesting. Make a note of that. Thank you for providing that, Tamara. That's awesome. All right, so I've got some dry herbs down at the bottom of the screen. You can see the agrimony and the bayberry there, black walnut hull, calendula, cardamom, cinnamon, clove, elderflower, eucalyptus, linden leaf, ginger, golden seal, horsetail, which is something I think Anne's got in her tea tonight. Juniper berry, lavender, lemon balm, oregano. Makes you pucker. Okay, so it's very astringent. And that's another thing to point out with a lot of these drying herbs. They're drying because of their astringent quality. But sometimes they're also drying because of the impact that they have on the body. When you think about what the goal is, a drying herb, usually you want to have someone take that because they have some sort of dampness issue. We'll be talking about that in a minute. But there's different ways to treat that damp, not just with a drying herb, but, an herb that gets things moving in one way or another. So next, I want to kind of jump over, now that we got a feel for our drying herbs, our moistening herbs, I want to jump over to indications and some indications of dampness. And I don't know how many people, can you drop a 1 in the chat if that's a term that you've heard before as it's related to somebody's constitution or symptoms from an herbal perspective? Have you heard the term damp before? Or is that new? Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of that. I know we have a little bit of a delay here, so just kind of giving everybody a minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Because of salve, it's softening and good for skin. It's healing, right? All right. Let me pull up some damp signs. And when I show you this, you're going to say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense with what it's called. And while you all read these here, I really want to see if I can find more on calendula for, I think it was Anne Philbeck. Yeah. Let's see if I can find anything on that for you, because I think you pose a good question. And I think what you're really looking for is how is it doing what is the mechanism of action that's making it be softening on the skin when it's drying. But I do know it's also really good for like eczema, right? I actually know someone who used the eczema, they used their own calendula salve on their eczema and just about wiped it out. They were really, really successful with that. Well, this book's just talking about by the way, guys, this is an amazing book. It's pretty new. It was suggested to me by one of our YouTube friends here. Great book by Maria Noel Groves. And I'm going to get back to you on that. Maybe we'll talk about calendula a little more next week. Yeah, the oil you infuse it into is definitely going to play a part. It moves lymph. The oil is soothing. And the calendula itself is supposed to be healing, but it is a dry herb, which, yeah, sometimes these things we do need to pause and ask questions, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this herbal study hall. So this is great. Okay, I'm going to catch us up here with these damp signs. So this, you're probably reading these and you're like, aha, edema, holding, retaining fluids, puffiness in face, hands, legs, abdomen. So overall water retention. You're welcome, Anne. Oily skin, sinus congestion or postnasal drip or phlegm. These are all damp symptoms, but also that feeling of being unmotivated, the feeling of just being heavy, like your legs are heavy, feeling like you don't want to walk. Also loose stools, bloating as some digestive things going on. And these are also symptoms, and I don't think I put it in the little ticker down below, but these are symptoms that get worse with humidity. So you might have somebody who feels like things are worse with humidity. This person could also have fungal issues like toenail fungus, athlete's foot, candida. Those are all damp signs. Does that make sense to everybody? Now that I've told you, put a 1 in the chat if you're like, yep, I got this. That makes sense. Now you could look at a person and think, yeah, they have a problem with some dampness, because maybe it is somebody who has all of, some of these symptoms that all seem to align. All right, now I'm going to switch to dry symptoms. But before I do, I want you all to share in the chat, is there any symptoms that come to mind when you think about dryness? I'm going to say one, chapped lips. Any dry, rough, flaky skin, feeling like your skin's so dry it almost has like a powder on the top of it or something. Yep, dry skin. Just any dryness. Could be dry eyes. So this person might have bloodshot eyes because they're just so dry. Hey, Robin, thank you for coming. Yep, dry hair. And that one might not be real quick out of the gate. That's going to be a long-term state of dryness, just because, the hair is growing out, and the hair that grows out is going to be drier and maybe less healthy. All right, let me go ahead and share the banner for the dry signs. Here we go. Dry eyes, dry mouth. This person might be thirsty. And maybe they're so dry that they don't even know they're thirsty. You ever known anybody like that who doesn't drink water and you know they're very dry and they have to be reminded to drink water because they're not even thirsty? They're so used to not drinking water. That's a thing. We talked about the dry eyes, even bloodshot, a dry, unproductive cough, and maybe a scratchy, irritated throat. Yep, Robin, your body's gotten used to being dry, and so you're not even thirsty. A tendency towards nosebleeds, right? Because they're so dry. The scanty, yellow, dark urine that probably has an odor to it. And lack of perspiration. This person may not even sweat very much because they are literally so dry that they have no moisture to like sacrifice. That would be your dry person. Everybody got that? Anybody want to add anything or have any questions? Drop me a 1 again. Never thirsty even though you need to be. Yep. And it'll carry over into other areas, and our body needs moisture. That's like one thing. We need water. Our kidneys need water. Our blood needs water. I heard it described once that if you're like, let's say you're eating the Great American diet, right? Like our typical stuff. If you're eating like that and especially if you're not drinking water, your blood can get so thick and sticky that it's difficult on your body. It makes it hard on your body. Yes, to the brittle nails. Yep. And it makes it hard for anybody to draw your blood. I have a phlebotomy certification, so I can recall like anybody who came into me really dry. That was one thing that would be really difficult, was getting blood from them. All right. So I want to revisit from last week. We did a couple of case studies, and these case studies, just as a reminder, do I have that book with me? It was from the Between Heaven and Earth book by Harriet Beinfeld, Beinfield, Beinfield. And she presented several different patients and what was going on with them. And I want to revisit some of those. So this is going to be like, some of you are going to remember this that are listening to this podcast or watching this video. But we've got Becca, who was hot, feverish, difficulty sleeping at night, craved lots of cold liquids. At night, her head became damp and she threw off her covers. Her cough was characterized by a thick, dry, tenacious green phlegm, and she had to cough a lot to cough it up. So in my notes that I took, I underlined her cough is characterized by a thick, dry, tenacious green phlegm, and she had to cough a lot to cough it up. Last time we looked at these patients and we talked about, is this person, will we put their symptoms in the hot category or the cold category? And this time we're going to look at this and we're going to talk about, are they in the dry category or are they in the damp category? So for what I just read, where would you put them? Dry or damp? Anybody want to take a stab at it? You can focus on her cough if you'd like. Her cough is characterized by a thick, dry, tenacious green phlegm, and she has to cough a lot to cough it up. Anyone else? You guys are all right. That is a symptom of being dry, thick mucus. Yep. So if somebody was to be formulating an herbal, cough syrup or herbal tea for this person, hey, green heart girl, thanks for coming. They'd probably want to use one of the moist herbs, right? One of the moist herbs to treat that. Anybody want to say what comes to their mind first as a moist herb that treats dryness specific to the respiratory system? Sorry. Here they are. I mean, there's lots of choices, right? I see a typo. Yep. Mullein would probably be my first go-to. But yes, the marshmallow and slippery elm for that scratchy throat. You gotcha on that one. Like, I would do that too. As a matter of fact, that's on the list of things that, remember when we talking about marshmallow, and I made a list of everything I want to make with that. I'm pretty excited about doing that. We'll chat more about marshmallow in just a minute. Okay, let me pull up this next patient. All right, the next one that we talked about, this patient was David. He was pale, listless, with cold and clammy hands and feet. His arms and legs were sore. He craves warmth, wants to be under lots of blankets, and desires warm drinks. He sleeps a lot during the day and at night. His cough is characterized by easy expectoration with large amounts of copious, clear, colorless phlegm. Anybody want to take a guess? Is he dry or damp? Dry or damp on that one? Yep, you were all right. Damp. I made one for my granddaughter with marshmallow, licorice, and elderberry syrup. It got rid of her cough. She said, "Thank you, Gigi, for the marshmallow." Oh, is that sweet? Love those grandbabies. Needs drying herbs. That's right, Steph. And there's some that are coming across the bottom here. Anybody want to share what their go-to would be for a cough like that? And you got plenty of ideas down there at the bottom. Anne shared one. Ginger. Yep. I am loving my ginger and lemon in the honey. So it's like a fermented ginger honey. I'm absolutely loving that. It's so nice to just have on the countertop, and I can just add, a teaspoon of honey into my tea. Love it. Love, love it. Lemon balm and ginger, Steph said. Okay. All right. Let's move to, I think we got one more I was going to share. All right. So Jenny, she no longer has a fever, but for several weeks she's had a hacking cough at night and seems tired and restless during the day. She complains that her throat is dry and scratchy and her lips are red and parched. When offered drinks, she shows no interest. When she does cough, there is little phlegm and it is sometimes tinged with blood. Anybody want to take a stab? Is she dry or damp? Dry or damp for her? Very dry. Very dry. I just want to add a little comment here that this can often happen as part, I was going to say as part of the healing process, but what I mean is, and I know this from firsthand experience, the person's sick and you start treating them, maybe with, elderberry syrup, or mullein tea, maybe some thyme in there. Maybe you start thinking, I need to dry out this cough. I've got some hyssop. I've got, I have a cough syrup that has hyssop in there. It's got, I think, catnip, just so it's kind of relaxing too. Can't remember all the ingredients I have in there, but you're treating this and they're coughing and coughing, and you start to get all of the moisture up out of them, right? Like all of their phlegm, it almost appears like they're getting better. And then all of a sudden, they end up with a really bad cough. And clinically, it's like bronchitis or something. And they're just coughing and coughing, especially at night. Nighttime is a time when people can get really dry. So when you have your nighttime coughs, if you wake up coughing at night, that's a sign that you're getting really dry at nighttime. So just kind of throwing that out there. As you try to treat people, and this can happen with over-the-counter medications too. something that is targeted at clearing up phlegm can result in that person being very, very dry. And then once they're very, very dry, they end up with a hacking cough and they can end up with inflammation. And that's what bronchitis is, right? It's inflammation of the bronchioles. Nighttime coughing is like the worst. It is the worst. All right. Anybody have any questions? Any other questions they want to ask or bring up? And I'm going to share something right now. I shared this book with you guys. Our recipe is going to come from here. We're going to be talking about our herb of the week next. And our herb of the week is marshmallow. And I want to say marshmallow root, but the truth is it's not just the root. Hey, Jan, thanks for coming. It's not just the root. It's also the leaf and flower, like all of it. And it's even, considered a food. You can use that as a food in a lot of places. Here's another book that I referenced this time, The Way of Herbs by Michael Tierra. And not so much this guy. Interestingly enough, it's emulsant tendency drying. Can I deviate for one minute? I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here because Ann Philbeck's question is just it's got me thinking. I'm with her. I'm kind of puzzled. Calendula is a drying herb. Why is it a drying herb? Like we use it to moisten things. So I've got this book here that's always kind of handy. Herbal Medicine from the Heart of the Earth. I prefer books over just Googling things. Just saying. And this says mental picture and specific indication. Calendula is indicated when the individual feels worse in damp, heavy, cloudy weather. There is a tendency to get cold easily and is greatly affected by the cold. It is specific for wounds that will not heal and lymphatic congestion with a predilection for the chest, axilla, and inguinal crease. Research shows that the herb has in vitro antiviral activity, supports normal connective tissue, aids in healing wounds, burns, bruises, boils, rashes, and can be beneficial for infectious diseases. It can promote the formation of granulation tissue by first intention and is useful for prevention or treatment of congealed tissue or tumors. And then it goes into like what some of the constituents that it contains. But to answer your question, Anne, I think even though it's warming and drying, it's probably mildly drying. And I'm betting that it's more of a regulator. Like, it comes into a wound and helps to balance out the wound so that it can heal. Helps move the lymph, helps to balance out just the environment, to maybe more normalize it. That's how I'm reading into that with calendula. And that's a different book that I pulled that from. So I'm glad to see that they're in agreement on the drying aspect of it. Okay. And the other book, I usually do a book share with you at the end. And I thought I'd go ahead and share it real quick before I do all that. Another one that was really fun to look into. And this is the instructor and owner of the school that I go to, Thomas Avery Garon. And I love it because he talks about Western herbs from the Chinese perspective. So it's pretty cool. And he had a section in here that I'm going to reference here in a minute. So I guess those are the books of the week. And let me go ahead and pull up our monograph for marshmallow, hoping I don't freeze up or anything. So bear with me while I do this. Let's see. Okay. Oops. Yay, I'm not frozen, or at least I don't look like I'm frozen, so I think I'm good. Okay, so you see the marshmallow here, the marshmallow plant. I found a cool little picture. Can you guys see that pretty good? Now's when I'm going to reference my phone because I'm actually going to be looking at my screen, which is a different screen. Oh, that's wonderful, Penny. I have some seeds. I'm so excited to grow that. So this guy is going to grow up to 3 to 5 feet tall. It's going to have, so the colors of the flowers can be a little different. It could be pale green, gray green, or excuse me. It can be, where do I have the flowers? Down here. Soft pale pink to lavender to near white. And I've seen it a lot with white. And then on the inside, there's another color in there, which is really cool. The stems are pale green to gray green, rising from the base. So there's fuzzy hairs on the stems that are felt-like. It's sturdy but not woody. The classic mallow flower form is 5 petals, slightly overlapping, forming a shallow cup like a hibiscus. I thought it reminded me like of a hibiscus when I looked at other pictures of it. It's got a thick, long, white to cream colored taproot that's very mucilaginous when you cut into it. And the exterior is light brown with an interior that is soft and spongy when it's fresh, when you first harvest it. The seeds produced resemble a cheese wheel shaped, it said schizocarp. I have no idea what that is, but we'll go with cheese wheel. And each wheel contains multiple wedge-shaped seeds in there. It will grow in zones 3 to 10. It's perennial in zones 5 to 8, and it will self-seed. It prefers moderate moisture, good soil, and partial to full sun. And you'll harvest the leaves and flowers in the summertime, roots in the fall or early spring. Basically, you want to harvest before it starts producing all of its flowers because the energy is still in the root. You can replant root crowns after harvesting them. I thought that was cool because I like to do that with the, what's the other thing? There's another root plant that I use that I do that with. Horseradish. Don't know why I couldn't think of that. Just a note here, I kind of put this for myself. Japanese beetles can be a problem with this plant. So I am going to make sure that I kind of grow it where I don't want the Japanese beetles. Won't put it next to my veggies that those are going to go after. And the parts used, root, leaf, and flower. So the constituents, it has long chain polysaccharides, which are like sugars. That swell into a gel-like matrix when hydrated, and that's what gives marshmallow the cooling, moistening, demulcent qualities. And, oh, I got a typo here. Let me fix that. Sorry, guys. And it also has pectin in it, and that's what contributes to the plant's gel-forming and soothing nature. So this, I just put some notes in here for myself about the polysaccharides, the mucilage content. And what I read was it's mostly, if you had a powdered root, your the outcome of your infusion. So here I've got some of the marshmallow root. It's already been like shredded and everything. I have it in water. I did see or read in several different places that it's best to create your marshmallow infusion by doing a cold water infusion versus a warm water infusion, though you can totally do a warm water infusion, but they just mentioned that if you can make a cold water infusion, that's the best way to go. You're going to get the most of everything out of it by doing that. Let's see what else. It also has starch. It has amino acids. It's got asparagine, which is noted as a major constituent of the root. And the phenolic acids support antioxidant and tissue soothing actions. The root is highest in the mucilage content, and then the leaf and the flower come after that. But they all have some of it. The root just has the most. And if you powder that root, you're going to end up with even more, which kind of makes sense because basically you're taking the plant and you're just creating more surface area. Hey, Big Family Expedition, thanks for coming. All right, vitamins and minerals. I always like to know what kind of macros are in these guys. So vitamins A, B complex, and also C. And minerals contains calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium, and trace amounts of iodine. Energetics, it's cooling and moistening. and tastes sweet and slightly bitter. So actions, it's a demulcent, diuretic, emollient, galactagogue, nutritive, vulnerable, antispasmodic, anti-inflammatory. And if we scroll down here to the uses, what I found overall, I took some notes from everywhere. Overall, it looks like this is used to treat maybe a digestive problem, maybe including reflux. It's used to treat maybe some intestinal issues, but there's some that it's going to be exclusionary for, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Also great at healing the throat, any skin tissue. You could use this topically as a poultice. You can make it into a salve. I mean, my list of things to make, I'll share with you of all the stuff that I'm going to make with this, and I'll video it when I do it. I will share my video for what I do with this, but because it's like a whole list of things. I'm like, yes, I'm making this, and I'm making this, and I'm making this. But just think, inflammation that occurs, mouth, throat, stomach, intestines, bladder, kidney, urethra. So great in like a formula that was to treat like a UTI. It would be included in a formula for that, not just by itself, but in a blend. I use it for reflux, constipation, diarrhea, tea for coughs and colds. Awesome. It enriches breast milk in nursing mothers and is a mild, nourishing food. I thought that was interesting. Externally, it could be used for wounds, burns, ulcers, and all inflammatory skin disorders. So TCM, if we could talk some TCM language real quick, I like to put a little blurb in here, even though I know we're not all about TCM, but I'm studying TCM, so I like to know this stuff. Supplements the lung and stomach yin and clears heat, effective in the treatment of yin vacuity of the lung and or stomach with symptoms such as dry cough, thirst, dry sore throat, burning sensation, and epigastrium. A premier yin supplementing medicinal from our Western Materia Medica, just meaning it is a great yin supplementing herb. And it supplements yin with sweetness and clears heat with the bitterness and cold. Remember, it has the flavor of sweet but slightly bitter. So it does both of these things. It causes yin vacuity heat to recede, used to treat yin vacuity heat with symptoms such as chronic UTIs, thirst, and night sweats. And it supplements the kidney yin and moistens the bladder, thus effective for treating UTIs that occur when kidney yin vacuity transfers vacuity heat to the bladder. And I know that's some TCM stuff, so thanks for hanging in there while I get through that for the folks that might be interested in that. I'm expecting that at some point we might have, some herbal fellow students joining us here that are learning not just Western herbalism, but maybe Ayurvedic or TCM like I'm trying to do, and might like that. So safety considerations. The mallows are considered safe and food-like. However, they may bother people with candidus, dysbiosis, SIBO, and FODMAP sensitivities. And I went and looked up some stuff because I kind of jumped down a rabbit hole. So I took one for the team. I jumped down the rabbit hole. I'm going to share with you what was in there. So SIBO is, for anyone who doesn't know, is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's a condition where you have too many bacteria, or possibly too many of the wrong types, but you could have too many of the good types too, according to what I read, that are present in the small intestine where bacterial levels are normally low. So that's what SIBO is, okay? Too many bacteria and possibly too many bad guys. And it's often associated with bloating, gas, abdominal discomfort, and changes in your bowel movements. So that's what SIBO is. Now, FODMAP, this guy, FODMAP sensitivities right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor pointing, but it's up here in this top box, third line down. I needed to know what FODMAP was. So it means fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. So apparently, all of these are short-chain carbohydrates that are poorly absorbed in the small intestine and easily fermented by gut microbes. So common examples include oligosaccharides are your wheat, onions, garlic, and legumes. Your disaccharides are your lactose containing foods. Your monosaccharides are your excess fructose, like apples and honey. And your polyols is sorbitol, mannitol. Those are found in some fruits and sugar alcohols. Y'all following me? And there's a reason I looked this up, because it says mallows are considered safe and food-like, but they might bother some people. And then they give this list. Candidas, I get it, because it's a moist herb. Remember, somebody who is really damp could possibly have a fungus issue, and you don't want to put more dampness in them. So that made sense. But the dysbiosis, SIBO, and FODMAP sensitivity stuff, that kind of threw me, and I had to dig into it more. So my next question was, okay, now I know what they are. Why is it bothering these guys? So here's what I found out for you. Marshmallow is a mucilage. Remember, it's a demulcent herb. It's mucilaginous. And the mucilage is a type of polysaccharide, which is made of long-chain sugars. Remember, it's got that arabinans. Like if we scroll up, I can show you all the constituents, and you'll see these guys in there. It's got these polysaccharides. Well, the polysaccharides are fermentable. They're sugars, okay? Think about if you've ever made kefir, or I've got one sitting on my countertop, and kombucha with sugar, and then it ferments. So those polysaccharides, they ferment. They're fermentable. They're fermentable fibers. So if you can picture, the reason you don't put your lid on your jars that when you're doing fermentations at home is because, like, that gas is going to expand. Well, that's what happens in your gut with fermentable, with these polysaccharides. So a lot of people, they might have like intestinal discomfort and gas when they eat a bunch of sugar. And it's because of the sugar, because it's fermenting and releasing a lot of gas. So stay with me though. That's what mucilage, polysaccharide. What do polysaccharides do? What are they? They're long chain sugars. What do? They ferment. Okay, moving on. I hope you all are following me. Okay, marshmallow slows gastric emptying, which is normally good because it's soothing, coating, and it protects the digestive system. But for people who have sluggish motility, it will slow things down further, which can create more fermentation time because food's going through the system more slowly, and more gas buildup and more discomfort. So already slow motility, we're talking about bowel movements. People who have maybe constipation issues, that could include your folks that are IBS-C for constipation. SIBO folks have that issue, and anybody hypothyroid could have problems with constipation. Maybe not all the time, but it's something that they're going to maybe battle with more frequently than other folks. So if you think about it like this, when the stomach empties more slowly, the small intestine receives food more slowly, and the colon receives waste more slowly. And then there you have your constipation issue. I hope that this is not too much. Can you guys drop a 1 or something in the chat for me? Let me know if you're good. So anybody who suffers from maybe lots of bloating, lots of gas that comes from like a SIBO kind of condition or a food sensitivity condition, or anybody who is constipated a lot, those people might need to be careful with taking marshmallow because it's not a hard no. All right. Thank you guys. Ooh, I was worried. There's a pause on my end. There's a pause between when I say something and when you guys hear me. So when I say drop a 1, there's like this pause. And I'm going, oh no, nobody's saying 1. I'm totally throwing them. Okay. So thank y'all for being involved. Appreciate you. Another thing, marshmallow has prebiotic-like fibers, even though it isn't a classic prebiotic like the inulin that you have in like burdock root's the first one that comes to mind for me. it'll still feed microbes. So if somebody has a microbial balance that is off, think about it. You're still feeding those microbes. If they got like way too many microbes in their small intestine, for example, it's going to give them more fermentation time, spend more time there fermenting, spend more time feeding those guys, and it can make them feel irritated more so rather than soothed, right? But I just want to say, remember, even people that deal with constipation or food sensitivities, it's not like their gut is always they're always having a problem. It's kind of a touch and go thing. And I mention that because the impact of this herb it's not herb dependent or indication dependent on that person as far as this goes. It's really gut dependent. It's so depending on what that person's feeling at that moment. And it's ideal for someone with dryness, irritation, or acid reflux who isn't at the same time struggling with constipation. Just know if they're struggling with constipation, that might be something that you want to treat also. And really, in the herb world, there's like no reason anybody should be constipated. I mean, I could tell you all kinds of things to do to prevent that from ever happening. But keep that in mind for this herb. All right. I guess I can scroll for you guys. Hold on. But marshmallow has helped. Oh. Is drawing to the bowel, causing the marshmallow actually help. See, I was thinking about that too, Greenheart girl. I actually had to dig a little deeper in other books to understand weight. If it's, like moistening up all of your, intestines, your gut, and so forth, how could that be? But it's all because it slows down the movement of things as it's coating it. So that's what it's all about. And if you're somebody like maybe it's with all herbs, it's just person to person. But I thought exactly the same thing and had to go look that up because it didn't quite make sense to me. All right. Otherwise, here's another important thing. When you take this, thank you all for the hearts. Appreciate that. If you're taking any medications, do not take them with marshmallow. It will delay absorption of your medications, and you don't want to do that. So make sure if you're making this for yourself or anybody else that you are aware of any medications that they take and you time it well. Because I read in one place like an hour, and then I read somewhere else a few hours, depending on how strong the infusion was or how I want to use the word slimy because that is what it's like, you guys. It's going to be kind of slippery, slimy. And remember, the powdered marshmallow root makes apparently like a really thick, slimy mucilage. And so the thicker it is, the more you drink, the further that time needs to be away. Would it be bad for a deformed colon? I don't know that the form of the colon would necessarily impact it. You might have to, I don't know. I didn't see anything about that, Penny. I mean, if it's still functioning, then the form is not hindering the function of the colon. So I would think that it would still process this maybe similar to somebody who is sensitive to it. And I do want to say, when I read about the sensitivities, what I saw was it doesn't mean that you don't ever use it. It means that those patients start slowly and listen to their bodies and pay attention to the impact that it has on them personally. That's what it meant. But I want to spend one more minute to revisit this medication thing because it is really important. You'll want to take your medication a few hours prior to consuming this herb, or any herb like this, including slippery elm bark. And you could use this as a replacement for slippery elm bark also. Yep, depends on the constitution of the person, for sure. Okay. What else we got? Otherwise known to be safe in remedies for children, infants, and elderly persons. Love that. Little bit of TCM here, contraindicated in patients with spleen vacuity, damp conditions. Due to its bitter, cold, sweet nature, it should be used with caution in those with dampness, especially in the middle burner. And your middle burner, I don't know if you can see my hands, is basically in kind of in your gut area. Your middle burner. Upper burner, be up here. Lower burner is like more like where everybody's reproductive organs stuff. Middle burner right here. All right, moving down. So let's talk about preparations and dosages and all that good stuff. I pulled these from a couple of different places. In the Herbal Gut Health book, it says capsule tea juice or in food, 500 milligrams per day. That's like 1 OO capsule or a teaspoon. And it looks like that would be like powder form, right? If you're just going to add it in. And the tea, 1 heaping teaspoon to 1 tablespoon dried herb per cup, prepared as an infusion. And there's the comment about cold being best, 1 to 3 cups daily. And the whole idea behind her book, where did I put that book? Where did I put that book? Of course, it's on the bottom. The whole idea in here, oh my goodness, she just went on and on about how amazing this, she called it soothing slime. Sounds tasty, doesn't it? But she just mentioned how incredibly healing it is. Healing for a dry, inflamed, irritated gastrointestinal lining. And she basically uses this to treat patients who might have leaky gut, or just really bad gut health. This is what she found to repair them with. Immediately soothes the GI tract while supporting long-term healing in reflux, ulcers, gastritis, gastroparesis, IBD, and leaky gut. Can be taken alongside irritants. Not at the same time, though, because that kind of counteracts what I just said. But she's talking about NSAIDs, alcohol, sour, or spicy food. So if you're eating food you know is going to cause you problems, you could take that to buffer it and help minimize some of their side effects on the gastric lining. And then she does say, but note the herb-drug interaction potential. And it acts as a prebiotic, providing important food for beneficial gut flora and thus helping to rebuild the gut microbiome, which is huge in getting your gut health back together, right? And it helps improve microbiome of people with dysbiosis. What else? I mean, before she talks about marshmallow root, she actually spends some time talking about demulcent herbs in general. And she listed some. Marshmallow root powder is in the very slimy, okay, this sounds kind of gross, but this is what she says. Very slimy, viscous, thick, snot, mucus-like consistency. That's what she refers to, the slippery elm bark powder, marshmallow root powder, aloe inner gel, of the aloe, like all of these. She mentioned some that fall in there, but in moderate to mild mucilage, pleasantly velvety consistency with a light viscosity. That's where she's got the marshmallow root cut and sifted. She even has oat milk listed in here. Great book, you guys. Anybody that's struggling with gut health, I would recommend this. And I haven't even read it all. I'm just really impressed with what I've read so far. And then she's got demulcent but less overtly mucilaginous, licorice root and plantain leaf and meadowsweet leaf, and especially flower, were listed there. And I thought, well, that makes sense. I would say that because I've also seen licorice root used in a lot of digestive teas, even the ones over the counter. Like if you get a little tea from the store, if you're wanting to make teas, I always tell people, what are you buying? Go read the back of the package and see if you can't make your own. But they'll include licorice sometimes, and that's probably why. Likewise for plantain leaf. And she also had a note in here, or was it another book? Is it in here? Talking about how marshmallow root could be like a really large part of a formula for a patient. Yeah, it must have been a different book. But I thought that was kind of cool. Oh, yeah. Here it is. Marshmallow can take up a significant portion of a formula base, perhaps 40%, providing medicine, buffering, and harmonizing other herbs, and enhancing the overall flavor and texture of a blend. She likes it with spices like nutmeg and fennelly flavors and or rose. So I thought that was kind of cool to read. I hope you guys liked it too. What's the book? It is Herbal Gut Health by Maria Noel Groves. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad, Jamie. That's awesome. Yes, Robin over Garden State so and so. She's the one that told me about this book. So I got it. Also, a syrup or glycerite, 1 teaspoon is needed. Best simmered or cold infused for several hours or overnight. Use no more than 30% alcohol as a preservative. Where I looked, I saw notes that it's just not great as a tincture. Here's a note about topical use, though. Tincture is used to soften hardened lymph nodes. That's kind of interesting. Some more tincture stuff, but I don't know. I think I'm going to go with her up here. This was another resource, but I don't like it. Just say. All right, let me scroll down. Does not readily mix into liquid. Blender is best. Usually added as 1 teaspoon to 1 cup of juice. May also be mixed with applesauce or a hot cereal, such as oatmeal. Yeah, so you could sneak it in your foods. That's kind of awesome. Got any little ones that are having issues? TCM note, it's combined with Ophiopogon and California figwort root for sore throat due to yin vacuity, and combined with Aucklandia and Coptis for stomach yin vacuity, causing retching, burping, and vomiting. Combined with Ophiopogon and mulberry leaf for dry cough due either to wind dryness or lung yin vacuity. Wind dryness, kind of refer to wind as like if you get a cold or a sickness or something. What else? There are several clinical and non-clinical trials. This last one was a clinical trial. So there's a lot of research that's currently being done. I found some that were 2025 and 2024. Just looking at the phytochemistry and biomedical actions and highlighting, they're all in agreement. Marshmallow's rich mucilage content, flavonoids, phenolic acids, and tannins, and connects these constituents to anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antimicrobial, and wound healing effects. And then the second paper integrated Unani medicine, which is like Ayurveda use, with modern findings, noting potential antiviral, antibacterial, hepatoprotective, that means liver protective, immunostimulant, and anti-tumor properties. It positions marshmallow as a multi-action herb with both traditional and emerging therapeutic relevance. And then lastly, this one was a clinical trial evaluating marshmallow's biological activities in a lab setting. Well, the others I think were, this is non-clinical, but it was in a lab setting. These other ones were more like data. They were like retrospective data studies. But the researchers confirmed significant antioxidant, antimicrobial, and anti-inflammatory effects from extracts of the plants, and findings support traditional uses for soothing irritated tissues and suggest potential for developing marshmallow-based therapeutic products. And we're a couple of minutes over, and I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't know. Can you tell I'm like really excited about the herb? Because the next thing I want to share before we end is all the stuff I want to make. I plan on making. Like, I'm thinking I could make a throat lozenge, or maybe an immune boosting lozenge, or a lozenge for GERD. Like, that would be awesome, right? And it would work for that. I've made a lozenge for GERD before with slippery elm, and I need to see if I can find my recipe and try to do that again. But that would be awesome. But you could even immune boosting, like, include some immune boosting herbs in there or something. That would be so fun. And then throat spray. You can make a throat spray for a sore throat, or like an immune support throat spray. Because, you know, when these germs get us, it's like they go right to our throat. Feels like they go right to our throat. So a spray, like a throat spray, I thought that would be fun. That'd be a neat thing to make. Tummy tea, which I'm going to be sharing with you guys a recipe. We still got to do the recipe, so hang in there with me. But okay, if you've seen the videos on my channel, you know I love to make like bath and body stuff too. So I want to make lip balm. I would love to make maybe some lotion or body butter. I did see some recipes about that. And I saw one mention of it being used in soap. And I make cold processed soap. And I'm thinking, is it going to mess with the saponification process? You know, like when your soap gets hard and turns into soap? Well, I'll let you know because I'm going to try it. So we shall see. And then I saw a really good recipe idea for making a baby powder. And I thought that would be cool. So I want to try that. And I want to try some detangling spray. So like, this is all the things I'm thinking of making. I will video it and share it with you guys. Now, let me quit sharing for a minute and come back to you all. All right, are you guys ready for your herbal recipe of the week? Yes, I saw it being used for hair too, Green Heart Girl. I saw that too. And I was thinking that would be cool, but I get my hair colored and I don't want it to uncolor my hair. But I might try it, maybe on the ends. All right, let me get that recipe for you guys. All right. I'm going to see if I can, I'm borrowing it from this book. And I'm going to see if I can hold this up so you guys can like screen. Well, that's not working out real good, is it? This is not good. Okay, I'm going to have to read it to you. It's a short one. Good. Yes, get your paper and pen handy or come back and watch the end of this to get it later. But you're going to take, this is called the My Core Gut Healing Tea, is shared in this Herbal Gut Health. This tasty recipe is easily adapted based on the individual and herb availability, appropriate for gastritis, ulcers, heartburn, reflux, leaky gut, acid indigestion, and any condition involving digestive irritation where soothing, healing action is needed. So it calls for 3 heaping tablespoons marshmallow root and or leaf, 2 heaping teaspoons plantain leaf, 2 teaspoons cinnamon chips or 4 cinnamon sticks, 10 cloves, 1 or 2 star anise seed pods, 4 cardamom pods crushed. It says for flavor or digestive oomph. So that could be omitted if you don't have it. And sprinkle of rose petals. You're going to combine these herbs, 32-ounce French press, cover it with hot water, and let it steep covered for several hours or overnight, and then you'll strain and refrigerate it. Sip on it hot or cold within 2 days. So there is your recipe of the week. And I hope you try one of the recent recipes we shared every week and let me know which ones you like. I'll be reporting back next week on mine, and I'll keep you posted with when that video is going to get up because you got to give me a minute. I have to infuse stuff in order to do all that. All right, that wraps us up, and apologies for going a little bit over our time. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I hope you do some herby things. Your herbal assignment for this week, to think about your demulcent herbs and your drying herbs. Think about that and see if you can't get more familiar with what those are. Go back and re-listen if you need to. Thanks for sharing out with your friends. And I will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.